everyone, welcome into Primetime TV. I'm your host, Barbara Marville-Kelly. I'm very excited about our show today. It's Right On, a very special edition. And the reason why I like that is because we get to hone in on some very special people in the community. A very special author that I'm very honored to introduce through his writings, his books for children. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a passion for children, and I don't know anyone that really doesn't. How they learn, how they can perceive things in life at a very, very young age. And I learned this from Mr. Bob Hicks. His actual talent, his God-given talent, has been brought out. He was born with these talents that gave him a new purpose for living, and that's writing children's books, all from his gift of rhyme. Do you remember when you were a child and Mom or Grandma would read you those books and everything would rhyme and it would be so exciting? We remember those. We learn from those. And did you know that there's an actual connection to the brain and how kids learn later on, especially when you read to babies? I didn't know that before I met Betty and Robert Hicks. So I want to tell you about these books because it's very exciting. So I covered the part about this God-given gift, and of course we all do have those talents and treasures that we were born with. Sometimes we don't use them. Bob chose to use them. He's known as Mr. Bob as an award-winning author and publisher of children's rhyming story picture books. He has published 3 print books: Tommy Turtle's Secret, Mouse in the Manger, and Danny the Dragon, and an e-book, Once I Was a Kid with the Wild Things on the Farm. I can't wait to get my hands on that. So that's really exciting to be able to have these picture books that not only tell a story, but they are a learning tool as well, because in the back of the book you get a chance to actually ask questions and discuss the book with your child or your grandchild. This one here is Tommy Turtle's Secrets. I love this one because it has a definite story behind it, and with Tommy Turtle's Secret, it won first place for the children's books and Book of the Year in 2008 Florida Writers Royal Palm Awards competition. Rhyming picture books, just like what we were talking about. So it's really fun to talk about what each one of these books are, and I'm going to kind of like tease you a little bit, because not only is this a gift for a birthday, Christmas, Hanukkah, an everyday I love you book, but it's the gift that keeps on giving. I'm so passionate about reading and authoring books myself because of how you can express your own story. This can actually be some therapy for some people, so I'm excited about that as well. But in addition to the fun and engaging rhyming stories, Bob's books have been stunning illustrations by professional artist Ashley Otis. Now, Bob wasn't looking for another career, but is always delighted to have a new purpose and cause to pursue, to use his gift of rhyme to help children learn to read and to develop a love for reading. You know, these books make great gifts for baby showers. This is Danny the Dragon. I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. Look at the illustrations on that. They're clear, they're concise, they're compelling, they're inviting. They're everything that our little children really need today. And guess what? No iPads. No iPhones, just good old-fashioned, wholesome stories. So we're going to start to dig in. Let's see, where do I want to start first? I know that the Mouse in the Manger is also going to be one that you're going to love. So this is the first time I've ever done something like this in my career, so I'm really excited. Mouse in the Manger. Take a look at this. You know, these books are very well done. The color and the quality and how they're made, so that they're going to be lasting, everlasting with your children. But this is... Oh, Robert signed this for me, too. Thank you, Robert. I know you guys are watching out there today. I'm Micah the Mouse, a Bethlehem mouse. I live in a stable instead of a house. I tell everyone a bright starry night when I secretly witnessed an amazing sight. I was getting hungry at the end of the day and looked in the manger for grain in the hay. The horses and donkeys are not very neat. They always drop grain wherever they eat. A weary donkey came into the stall. He'd been carrying a woman 5 days in all. My people, said the donkey, have no place to stay. My master said they could sleep in the hay. The woman was young and big and round. The man had to help her down to the ground. He pushed some hay up into a heap, spread out a blanket, and they went to sleep. Sound familiar? Know the story? The night was still till the man stirred about. He ran from the stable and started to shout. I dashed to a hole and peeked through the hay. Was it time to hide? Was it safe to stay? The innkeeper came running, carrying a light. With his wife right behind him, I ducked out of sight. They ran to the place where the woman lay and knelt down beside her, right there in the hay. The sounds were confusing till I heard shouts of joy. Hallelujah, good sir, you now have a boy. They carefully washed the new baby off, then wrapped him up in soft strips of cloth. They laid the baby in the manger near me. I should have run, but I wanted to see. I should have been scared with a person so near, but for some strange reason, I felt no fear. A bunch of men who smelled like sheep barged into the stable. How can anyone sleep? One shouted, come see what the angel said. The babe in a manger instead of a bed. We were watching our flocks in the hills tonight when suddenly we saw a frightening sight. An angel appeared above in the sky saying, don't be afraid, I'll tell you why. Listen, I bring you good news of great joy. In the city of David there is born a boy. He is Christ the Lord, a Savior to all. You'll find him asleep in a donkey's stall. Then suddenly angels filled the whole sky singing praises to God, the one most high. Goodwill to men and peace on earth. Glory to God for his holy birth. We said to each other, we've got to go down and search the stables and look through the town, that we may see this wonderful thing, the child who is born to be our king. We found the child we came to see, the Savior who come to set us all free. Then the shepherds ran out to spread the word of all they had seen and all they had heard. The mother and child fell asleep on the hay. I stood guard beside them till first light of day. Then I scampered away to hide in my nest deep down inside. I knew I'd been blessed. Here he is. I love it. A long time later, I heard the plopping of feet and camel bells ringing, so I ran to the street. A bright shining star came down from the skies with a light so bright that it hurt my eyes. 3 elegant camels came up to the door. I crept near a camel to find out more. Hey, Mr. Camel, why'd you come to this place? The camel leaned down close to my face. We've come a long way from far in the east, over mountains and deserts not fit for a beast. We've carried our masters with gifts for a king, gold and myrrh and some other thing. This isn't the palace we expected to see. Where is this king supposed to be? I told the camel what the shepherds had said, that Christ was born in a stable instead. The camel looked up at the star shining bright. Truly, he said, a miraculous sight. But I have to admit, I have heard nothing stranger than Christ the King with a mouse in the manger. And that's Micah. Micah the Mouse in the Manger. In the back of this book, which I find just really fascinating and wonderful, first of all, you're going to see a picture of the author, Mr. Hicks, Mr. Bob Hicks, and you'll also see the artist, Ashley Otis. But the other thing is you're going to see the questions and answers that, or the questions that you can ask for your children in what they're learning from this book. And I think that it's just fabulous for not only a Christmas gift, but even throughout the year. This is a gift that I always say keeps on giving. So this is Mouse in the Manger. Now, I'm not going to read all the books, but I know we have a quick little clip that we can go to here as soon as that's ready, and you can kind of have a look-see. It's just a short little clip, and we're going to do that right now, and I'll be right back. And here is Danny the Dragon. If you'd like to learn more about Robert Hicks, you want to go to robertzhicks.com. There's also a fantastic interview there where you can learn more about Mr. Hicks and his newfound journey. So if you have a chance to go ahead and do that, I'd recommend doing that today and keep that website handy. You also have Tommy Turtle's Secret. You have Micah the Mouse in the Manger. Perfect for Christmas time. But I have to say, these are such great learning tools for children, and if you have a passion for books, reading stories and all, then check Mr. Hicks out and see what he is all about, because I think it's going to warm your heart, especially today in these crazy times. You want to teach your kids and you want to let them learn on their own and really help that brain connection. This is the way to do it. So thanks for joining us here on Writer's Edition. We'll be right back. At a certain age, so this is supposed to happen. No, it's not supposed to happen.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
At a certain age, so this is supposed to happen. No, it's not supposed to happen. That did that. It was, I liked a lot of it though. Oh, hello. We're back. Welcome back into Primetime TV. We are having fun today. You know, I love it when my friend comes. It's nice to be in business with a friend and come on TV and share all kinds of different things. You know, this is the last show. that we're
year.
doing of the year.
Wow.
But, oh wait, there's more coming up next year. But thanks for joining us today, everyone. I'm Barbara Marville-Kelly. With me is my dear friend, not a partner in crime, only if we get on the dance floor, then that's nothing but big trouble. Helena Trangata, also known as Tinkerbella, because she sprinkles her fairy dust in the neighborhood, and also has a company called Bellisimo Publishing, which is really great. How long have you had this? When did you start it?
Long time ago, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, and I remember what happened.
Well, you know how I got there.
I do know how you got there. You were doing some other things.
Well, it was after my coaching certification.
Yeah.
Which I can give Barb. She gave me that little...
The little nudge.
The little nudge to go with that.
Neither one of us knew what was happening there when you came to the house and you left crying, and all of a sudden, the next thing I know, you're doing Bellisimo Publishing. I think it's because you followed your heart, basically. We actually have your page up. I love this. What's your story and how to write it? You got a story? You know you have a story.
Everybody's got a story.
Everybody has a story, and it doesn't even matter what kind of story. It's a story. We live our story, right?
You know, and it's so, more and more now, like in branding. And so it doesn't just matter about your books. You know, if you're wanting to sell your products, you've got to tell a story. And you can see this, the big car manufacturers, the, I don't know, Subaru, for example, they tell a story now. Instead of really pushing that car, they tell a story about how this older Subaru has cookie crumbs in the seat and has dog prints on the window, and how this Subaru has lasted through their whole family, and now they're giving this car to their daughter.
Exactly.
Isn't that a great way? I mean, they're telling, so we know if the big guys are doing it, the big guys, that, how are you going to sell your product? How are you going to sell your self? If you're a coach, if you're a teacher, if you're a educator, meaning in holistic health, if you're a massage therapist, it's all about, we all have a story, but whether or not we tell it. Sometimes we think it's too personal, or we don't want to share that much of ourselves, but we have to share a little bit of ourselves. What does that give us? What does that earn us?
It earns your integrity, and it
shows our integrity, and it earns your trust. Trust
and respect and all of that, and people love stories, and that's what I learned big time when I was hosting at HSN. It was all about telling the stories. Our customers wanted to know the stories, even in my book series, as you know, and yours. We all have that story to tell. And my purpose, and we're going to talk about your husband, Joe, that has several books out. My whole purpose, my driving force to do my story is my kids and my grandson JD, and to leave something for him. Oh, I didn't know that about Mimi, or oh yeah, that's so Mimi. Different things that are personalized, because that's the best thing that gets us through life, is love of our family and our friends, as you know. So you started out with this Bellisimo Publishing because you were not following your heart at the time, right? you were in sales, and it was okay, it was good, and you were good at it.
But there was just something that spoke to me at a session at your house, and our friend Britt was there and spoke to me, and it was like when I left there, it was like, oh, I don't know what just happened.
I zapped you.
I was like, I don't know what just happened, but I think that I need to do something else. I don't know what it is. I don't know, I have a business already. I don't know what it is. I mean, I didn't leave there going, oh, I'm going to start a publishing company. No, I didn't leave there saying, oh, I'm going to be a certified coach. But I did become a coach after a few months, because that was, I had done some coaching online with this group that we were talking to. And then you find your niche. People think it's just like a doctor. They know they want to be a doctor, but they don't know they want to specialize in a certain area until you find what grabs your heart. Maybe it's the kids that grab your heart. Well, in my case, I was sharing that I had become a coach online, and at the same time Joe was writing his second book, and I said, well, you need to e-publish it. And he was like, yeah.
He didn't have a clue how to do that, did he?
No. And I would send them stuff about
But you knew how to do it. You were just
I learned how to do it. Yeah, I learned it. And so I started telling people, I'm like, well, I'm going to e-publish my husband's second book. This was his first book. I'm going to e-publish his first book because it was never e-published to learn how to do it. And then I'm going to e-publish his second book. And people started saying, well, do you do that for me? And before I know it, I'm a publisher. I'm publishing people. I'm a book coach, and I'm helping them write their process, through the process, and publishing their books. And I was like, wow, where did this come from? It was really a God thing. You know, we know that, you know.
I was just talking about that God thing in the first segment today on how we're all born with talents and treasures. Sometimes we just don't use them. And so you've taken this to really embrace your authors and bring the best out in them. So let's talk about...
Can I just kind of segue back to your first segment for a second?
Oh, yeah.
Because I just want to say a thank you to Mr. Hicks and his wife, Betty.
Yes.
I just was at All Children's Hospital Outpatient Center for their Winter Wonderland, where they give a gift to every child and every sibling of their patients. And Mr. Hicks had donated several, I don't even know the number, but I would say close to 100 books that were given away.
There were several cartons, I hear.
I think you heard cases, but I don't know what's in a case. And he wasn't there that day, but I do know Mr. and Mrs. Hicks, and I think that they're lovely, lovely people.
Yes.
And I'm so happy to say that they donated these books so these kids could have children, and the speech pathologist was over the moon happy. She had some patients who were not able to come and get the gift, and she said, I want to take the book. I don't know if they're going to have any gifts left, but these children, they need these books. Many children don't even have a book to read. And she said, and this is such a joy. It was the Tommy the Turtle book. I don't know the exact title, but thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Hicks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And
that's right.
I remember you with such passion.
Oh, I know. They're such delightful people, and it did my heart good to do that segment.
Anyway, so that's, you know, I love anybody who tells a story. I love anybody. I love stories, obviously.
I know. And it's also a wonderful way to escape from things out in the world and stresses and things like that. But
it's so sad when people don't read. Like some of my grandchildren have said that they don't read. I'm like, I learned half the things I know about the world through the world of books. I used to like be a volunteer when I was in school in the library because I liked to be surrounded by the books, and you know, I could tell people, oh well, yeah, this book is so good, and you know, so I learned about Italy.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, so I had been like a little volunteer, you know, nerd in the I think they call that a nerd now.
Tinkerbell nerd now? Oh, maybe you can go on Nerd Talk.
Oh, I don't think I'm that nerdy. That's John. But I loved books. I mean, way back when, I got my books out from the bookmobile. Do you remember the bookmobile?
No.
Oh, we had bookmobiles. Well, I lived in a little rural area, and the bookmobile would come around, a whole truck filled with books. I was so happy.
I had never
to
heard
be
of that.
able to go in there and get my books and have them for 2 weeks or whatever it was.
Oh, that's what. See, and you really have fulfilled your calling.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love to read. I read mainly nonfiction now and how-to books, but I read a lot of fiction in my life, and a lot of the fiction was things that, you know, taught me about Italy or Europe or, oh my goodness, the you know, the parts of history that some of them were not that good. You know, I'm talking about things that were where we had terrible hatred in this world, and people were being I don't know what the word is, hurt, you know, for lack of a better word, you know, when so that's how I learned about all of those things, because I'm the little country girl, right, you know, and I get a kick out of a bookmobile. It was a long time before I got to go out of the United States and learn, but I already knew a lot of this.
Right.
You know,
That's
I knew
amazing.
about, you know, any number of things that I wouldn't have known about. You know, we all, anyone that was a reader, we knew about the Civil War because we read about Scarlett O'Hara. And so, you know, that was like pretty awesome. You know, I read a lot of historical fiction. And you know what? Maybe all those facts weren't quite true, but it taught me things about a different time than I would not have known
that we didn't
about.
live in. Exactly.
And that even my mother, you know, and she had 4 kids. My mom, there was 4 of us. I mean, do you think she had time to tell us about the books she read? Probably not. But you know, it was well, it's probably what kids think now when they see an iPad or get to go on an iPad or, you know, on a TV show. But, you know, back then there was like 3 networks, and you know, we had Lucille Ball on one of them, and,
oh my goodness,
and the dancing guy on another show, and then we had Gunsmoke. So those weren't shows that really taught me much.
No,
where the books that I read taught me, it was just opened up my world.
And that's fortunate that that's a good anchor for you. And this is the first time I've heard this part. So that's beautiful. I love that. You just beam when you can talk about your love and your passion. What got Joe started? Why did he write this book?
He wrote that book because he grew up in South Philly, and he, unlike me being a country bumpkin, he's the city boy where he saw and heard lots. And he wanted to share that. And he had a big Italian family. And so a lot was happening in the family, and then, you know, just growing up and telling the story of what, basically, it's a fiction book, but it's based on his growing up in South Philly.
Every day above ground. I love that.
And that's a term that his grandfather used.
Yeah.
You know, every day above, you know, he would say, "How you doing, Pop?" And he'd say, every day above ground. You know, every day above ground. And he had a working title of, when he was a kid, he was kind of a dreamer. Apparently, he was sit in the classroom, and he'd be dreaming, and he'd look out at the birds on the wire, and he would like have a conversation in his mind that the birds were talking to each other. So the working title for this book was called Birds on a Wire.
Oh my gosh. Hold that thought. We're going to take a break. And he's written 3 books, right?
Yes.
And he's working on his 4th.
That's right.
Right now, as we speak.
As we speak.
Or Joe would have been here today. And he's actually been on and talked on our Right On TV. And I just love this special edition that we do. We don't do it all the time, but we are going to be ramping it up for next year. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this. At a certain age, so this is supposed to happen. No, it's not supposed to happen.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
At a certain age, so this is supposed to happen. No, it's not supposed to happen. Here we are again on Primetime TV. You know, I was just thinking during that break, how many people get a chance to do a TV show with one of their besties and talk about stuff that is passionate, talk about stuff that can make a difference in the world, right?
Yeah, it's really fun. And you know, you did such a great job reading Mr. Hicks' book.
Aww.
With the little mouse in the manger. That was so cute.
Well, I don't think I've ever grown up, and I don't think you have either. So anyway, welcome into Primetime. I'm Barbara Marville-Kelly, and with me is Helena Trangata. I should really introduce you all the time as Tinkerbella, also known as Helena Trangata. But anyway, we're talking about Bellisimo Publishing, which is your publishing company, all divinely guided to you, and that's what you've been doing. How many years now has it been about?
Like I said, 5 or 6. I'm not sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
you know, I probably could. Well, it doesn't matter.
So Joe's first book was Every Day Above Ground, and it's a fiction, but based on kind of his childhood. And was the next one What Are the Odds?
The next one was What Are the Odds?
Okay.
And through all of his books, he has a spirit that appears.
Oh yeah.
When people are in need, not necessarily financial need, but when they're in need, this spirit, and he calls him the old man. And I think he's kind of like Joe's grandfather, but I don't know for sure who this old man is. Joe doesn't really talk about him. He just calls him the old man. And so when I created this cover, I found an image of this old man. We bought this, of course, you know, because you've got to buy it because of graphic rights. And to me, he just was a spiritual old man that would step in when things were really tough and kind of give you some hope. And I love that part of it because, I mean, they are all fiction books. They tend to have a little mob story in them. They tend to have a little romance. They tend to have, you know, growing up in the 50s, and this one started growing up in the 50s in Philly, but it's kind of a continuing story. And yet what is in all of them is this old man, which to me
I
is...
love that.
Yeah.
I
so
bet only Joe knows who that old man is.
He doesn't really say, though, when I ask him. I think it's a compilation of people that have been in his life.
I think so.
But his website is, his Facebook page is called The Old Man Says. And now we're not talking about Joe in that, although Joe could be constrained as a little older, but he's not the old man. It's it's this old spiritual man in there. And so I see him, you know, just kind of like hanging out on a park bench in the city, in the park, you know, and then, you know, he just appears into someone's life when, you know, one man is about to kill himself, and the old man appears and talks to him, you know, and he's the only one who sees the old man, and then he finds out that, you know, his sister has died, and he's basically got to raise her children, and had he taken his life, there would have been no one there for those children. So just special little spiritual take on it.
You know, we need more books like this. This would be a great movie.
Oh yeah,
that'd be a great
absolutely.
Movie. Yeah.
And he uses family names. So on the next one, which is just like a Philly girl, he uses Brooke, which is our oldest. Not our oldest, but one of our nieces, and his brother's oldest niece. Is that right? It's Joe's great niece, so it'd be his brother's oldest granddaughter. And so he uses the one Brooke, and there again she follows it. But then this gets, you know, it goes further into time. So we're not in the 50s anymore. You know, we're in the present, and she gets involved with someone who's going to blow up the city hall there in Philadelphia. So she gets involved with the FBI and everything.
And that's this one here, just like a Philly girl. Okay.
So the idea is that we've kept the old man through all of the books, but the story does change, but it's still based on in Philadelphia and Atlantic City, and then sometimes in New York. But it's all based on his own, you know, like he was in the Army, so part of the first book was about back when he was in the Army. You know, it talks about, you know, because he was down the South in the Army, and they kind of made fun of the Italian boy who was down there, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so there was that. And so this one is, Brooke is in the city, and she's trying to save you know, to find out why these people are going, you know, and to stop this bombing of City Hall, because thousands of people could be hurt. So it's very interesting.
They're all interesting.
Yeah, and so when he's researching these books and when he's dreaming of them in his head, he's writing in his head, you know, sometimes I'll just look at him and I'll say, you're writing in your head right now, right? And he'll say, yeah, yeah. He's like,
that's where it
his
starts,
story,
right?
you know, and that it goes back to, like we talked in the beginning, it goes back to telling the story. So Joe is a great storyteller, you know this.
Oh, he is. When we go out to dinner, I just sit there. This is one of the few times that I just keep quiet. He just, yeah.
He's a great storyteller. The kids always love it. They always say, tell us a story, Uncle Joe, tell us a story. And I love that, you know, because so many kids nowadays, they don't even want to take the time to hear a story. They're just like, you're a person, I'm going to go watch a video.
I know, and I think that's what's missing. And so when, you know, when you decided to do your Bellisimo Publishing, I didn't realize how really important all of this is until it evolved, and I saw the books that you were doing, and then we also have Karen Gilman that this is another great story. Hopefully we have enough time before we take that break, but let's talk about Karen Gilman. This is a fantastic story as well.
Well, Karen Gilman is the head, has a company in Tampa, and she is a friend of mine, and I actually met her through Charity Chicks, which she is the founder of and the co-partner of that with Lisa Ford. And she had started writing this book, or she had thought about it, because she had a lap band surgery done. And in the book, she talks about how she had struggled with weight loss through her whole life. I mean, from young, you know, teenage years, how she had struggled with weight loss. And then she decided at some point to get this lap band, and she lost a lot of weight. I don't remember the actual number, but you know,
it was a lot.
I can't, you know, like 50 pounds or 75 pounds. Anyway, all because of the lap band surgery, and it had its own challenges. So she did a great job on this. She journaled on this. She drives to work about an hour each way, and so she would actually speak into her phone and journal the book. She would talk into the phone into a journal, and then she would have that go to text, and then she took that and put it into the book. So it's, people say to me, oh, I don't have time to write, or I don't have time this and that. She made it work because she wanted it so badly. And this book is actually, she has quite a following. I mean, she's a lovely lady, but she has quite a following because she blogged about her weight loss and gives them tips and all how to work with their weight loss and exercise, and how it's all about balance, you know. And so she's got quite a following, and she did a lot of that to prep her way into writing this book, and so she would have the following. So she had an audience when the book was published. And she's actually become a spokesperson for the lap band company that she worked with, that she actually used.
That was phenomenal.
She became a spokeswoman for them, and I don't know if she's signed any deals lately. I haven't actually spoken to her much lately, but
all from telling her story.
Yes.
Yes.
Telling her story. And I've been encouraging her, when I do speak to her, to write. She's adopted 2 children, and I've encouraged her to write a story about the adoption and all, but I don't know if that she has or not. I've kind of not spoken to her lately, but I do love the way, and she designed her cover. I think she did a great job with it.
Absolutely.
She just needed a little bit of help with it, so, you know, that's when I said, well, I'm not, you know, and Joe, of course, he needed a little, so it became that I wasn't just the publisher, I'm actually the book coach.
Right.
You know, help them find a way to do it, because everybody's got to do it their own way.
Oh yeah, and you know, what I love about it too is that you make it very affordable. You know, at one time, if you weren't well endowed with money, it was just not a possibility to have a book published. And nowadays, you know, I think as a book coach, not only do you help people learn how to do a book, but how to withdraw, how to go inside and pull out what they want to share in their story. And I think that's important, because a lot of people, you know, they
I
just
was
don't know
having
where
a
to start.
Conversation, some of you know Mona Giordano, who we've taught classes on writing, and we love Mona, and she's writing her book, And she was saying, you know, I still feel so uncomfortable with it. And I said, you know, you are stopping yourself, because the fact that, you know, she just feels like she wants it to be perfect right now.
Yeah.
She wants it to be done right now. So I said to her, because we had, you know, some one-on-one critiques, and I said, remember you were telling me the story about what happened in this, and I said, and I got lost, because I didn't know if you were talking about your mother or your aunt or your sister, so I had to stop you. And I said, you were reading me the story, but I had to stop the story and saying, who were you talking about now?
I remember that. That was in our class.
Yes. And so I said, just in a conversation, so that it doesn't just happen in books. It happens in any storytelling.
Sure.
Sometimes Barbara will be telling me a story, and then
I'll go on to something
She'll be
else.
saying she and her and whatever, and I think she's talking about her sister or a friend, and she's talking about the dogs, but she calls her girls, which they are her girls. And I'm like, wait a minute. What happened here?
Hold that. And you know that's true. I do that to ad nauseum. I get on my own nerves when I do that. You know, it is what it is. But I think we only have one segment left.
I think so.
And what we're going to do in this last segment, stay tuned, call your friends if they're not tuned into the show. If you have a story to tell, we're going to get you started with how to get started in this last segment. But in the meantime, we have a little housekeeping to do, so don't go anywhere. We shall return. At a certain age, so this is supposed to happen. No, it's not supposed to happen.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
at a certain age, so this is supposed to happen. No, it's not supposed to happen. Hi everyone, welcome back into Primetime TV. Our special edition today has been known as Right On TV, and it's really featured for authors, artists, and entrepreneurs. And I'm excited. Even though this is our last show of this year, we're ramping up next year. We've got a lot going on, so thanks for joining us. I'm Barbara Marville-Kelly. With me is Helena Trangata, and she's going to be telling you how to tell your story. Okay, so where do we get started? What if we don't even know we have a story? How do we get there? And we only have just this last segment to do.
Oh, everybody has a story.
I know.
Everybody has a story. So it's, you know, it could be something that you've dreamed about. I mean, if it's a strictly fiction, you know, many people have dreams that they want to write down, and it becomes fantasy. You know, I mean, I am more of a nonfiction and a fiction person, but it's a huge audience for fantasy and young adult writing. So look at the Harry Potter series.
Oh,
you know, that came out of seemingly nowhere and is a huge series today, which is all about fantasy. And so it's just the idea of you can, I mean, you're always saying if you can dream it, you can stream it, or something like that. Well, if you can dream it, you can also write it.
Yeah.
And so by combining all these medias, it's very exciting too, the fact that some of the people are putting animation in their books, and they're using so much more now in books than what used to be just a standard black and white page. You know, now you can use a lot more graphics in your book, a lot more color. You saw the children's books that Robert Hicks had done. I thought he did a fabulous job with his illustrator, did a fabulous job with that dragon. That was really nice.
Yes, the colors and everything, the illustrations were so dramatic.
Jumped right off the page.
They did. A lot of children's books, they're a little
like
blah.
stick figures or something. But this was very well done. He did a great job with that and with his illustrator. So the same thing can be done now with some adult books. As you even know, adult coloring books are a big thing right now. And so it's the same thing. You could take, there are people who have taken a nonfiction book, like a coaching book, for example, and then they've made a coloring book out of it because it's about what, you know, if you're like my shirt, you know, so I'm into love and peace and books, right? So you do a book, a coloring book on love and peace and books, and so you show different black and white drawings that can be filled in.
Yeah.
And, you know, coloring books right now, and it's more personalized. They're motivational.
Yes.
They're inspirational, and you can target a specific audience. So I carry a line. I don't publish them, but I carry a line of faith-based coloring books. Isn't that cool? That I said, you know, they sell for $12.95, so it's not like they're totally over the top money-wise.
They're not out of the question for a gift.
Isn't that a nice thing?
Yeah.
You know, if you say, oh, you got a friend, and we have some friends right now that are, you know, having some challenges. So if I can just go there and I can give them a faith-based coloring book if I feel like this is something that they would feel good about, or motivational or inspirational.
Yes.
So I mean, there's so many ways to inspire, and giving a book or sharing a story is even more important than, say, sharing a movie, you know.
Unless the movie's based on real life, too, and you can relate. Because I think stories,
but
people
most
relate.
movies start with a written script.
Yeah, they do.
You know, Kelly's got one that he wants to be made into a movie. He's got Tango Man, which is a written script right now. I mean, it's a written book, and I think it's actually been gone through a scriptwriter as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, you know, he's got that. And so, but it's, when I see a movie, I always wish that I had read the book first, because the book has so much more detail than the movie can possibly have.
And you miss things in the movie.
And they can't look at all the little threads of everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like,
I get that.
You've got the friendships that, you know, there's a whole lot of relationships in a book that cannot be shown on the screen. It's too complicated.
Too long.
It takes too much time.
It would be 25 hours long in a movie. Well, that's where the TV series, you know, can come in with something like that. But it starts with the story. It starts from here. It starts with what is going on up here, like you said Joe does. He starts with, you know, in his head, and you can actually tell when he's creating something. So how do you get them started? Okay, let's say somebody wants to write a book. What's the first thing that you're talking about doing a class possibly in January, right?
Right.
Okay, and that's going to be locally around town here in the
probably in Holiday.
Pasco County area. So we'll let you know on that. And of course, you can always get a hold of Helena through 727-457-9391. And then we also have your link up here, your Tinkerbella page. But is it really like complicated? Because I've taken your class.
Yeah. Did you think it was complicated?
It wasn't complicated.
Barb is an awesome writer, by the way.
Oh,
I mean,
you're
she
so
can. So we do little prompts, what we call writing prompts in the class. We do writing prompts.
Yes.
So we'll have things like, okay, so it might be like something like Philly Girl or It's Never Too Late. So I'll say that little phrase, and then they pick which one they want to write about. So I mean, we have some phenomenal creative writers in our class. I mean, they like take these things and run with them, and it's very good for my heart,
Yeah,
to see
I know.
this.
I love those. Those prompts were great.
Yeah, and so there's any number of them. I can say, like the garbage man wore blue, and somebody can zip off something about that. It's pretty awesome, and so it's encouraging the creativity.
Yes.
Because most of us have somehow boxed off our creativity. We put it over in a little box over here, and we only take it out once or twice a year.
Right.
But this writing class, it just allows you to blossom in your creativity. Right. And, there are a lot of people that write about creativity, and I read some of them, and they're saying, if you want to be a good writer, you need to not only write every day, but if you get blocked, you need to do something creative. Because while you're doing something creative, let's just say it's an art project over here, then your book will come back to you. The story of your book or what you want to write.
Yes.
So, the idea is if you want to be creative any way on paper, you want to be able to have some other type of creative outlet.
And that's really a good point, because I've noticed that when myself, I'm most happy when I'm being creative.
Oh, yeah.
And we all have that gift. We're all creative. It's just, do we take the time, or do we develop the passion for that creativity? Because you may surprise yourself on the creativity that you may have. A book that you may want to write. I'm big on children's books too. And last year, I started J.D.'s book on himself. J.D., the superhero kid.
Right, I remember.
And I had so much joy writing that. And it's ongoing. It's ongoing. And so this year I've got more pages to add to it. I mean, that kid is something else, and he's just like my driving force. Find your driving force. That's what will motivate you to write a story. Like the fella that used to work at Publix. Remember I told you he retired? And he would... Don over at the Chelsea Publix. I'm going to give you a shout out. He would...
Hey, Don. I met him too.
Did you meet him?
Yeah, but he wasn't ready to actually...
He wasn't ready, but what he'd do is he'd set up his displays, the food displays, right? And he'd make these funny little comments, and he'd put down... He wouldn't say a word. You'd just come around, and he'd serve you whatever, and then he'd just point to it, and you'd read it, and you'd crack up. Everything was just so fun, from the heart. And I said, you need to do a book for your family. So I wonder if you ever did. I'm going to see where.
Well, you know what? During the break, we were talking about the memory books. So we had some requests for memory books, and a memory book is something that is a legacy. She was talking about legacy, and she was talking about J.D. That book she may or may not ever publish for the public about him. And this is the good thing, is because now we used to have 2 and 3 generations of family that lived within a block of each other, or sometimes even in the same house. Now our families are all spread out all over creation.
Yeah.
And so the stories that have to do with the family are kind of getting lost.
Yeah.
And so wouldn't you like to have some of those stories put together so J.D. and any other siblings you might have come along can read those maybe long after you're gone, and hear about your mom who was gone before he was arrived.
Yeah.
So you can hear about his grandma and his grandpa or his Aunt Sally or whomever. And the other part of that is we're the baby boomer generation, and the baby boomer generation, most people in the baby boomer generation are finding that there's someone that they know that has either dementia or Alzheimer's. And one of the ways to keep them happy, as long as they're able to understand us,
comprehend,
is the fact of bringing up the memories and telling and bringing up the old stories.
Yes.
So those memory books are very important, and it brings a smile to their face. They may not remember what they had for lunch yesterday, but they can tell you what happened in 1942 on a Tuesday. You know what I mean?
At 3
in
o'clock.
the park at 3 o'clock. That's right. They're playing chess with the guy in the park. You know what I mean? And God bless them.
Yeah.
You know, but this is the thing that we want to keep them happy, and those stories also can go forward as well as go backwards. So I think that's so important. And who knows? There may be a day that that story is for us.
I'm telling you.
It keeps our mind a little sharper as well.
And as I said during the break, my husband said that when you, because he's a life coach with Heart Math Institute, and knowing the frequencies of the heart and the whole physiological state of the body, when you go back to a moment in time that was very positive for you and you love that memory, it actually creates the exact same chemicals in the body.
Those endorphins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I can understand why that would be good.
Yeah.
So you think you might be doing a memory book class?
You know, we just
think
really
that
are
would
looking
really
at
go
what is what people are looking for. You know, we offered it. It was probably poor timing when we offered it before. We had 1 or 2 people that were interested. You know, to have a class, we need 5 or 6 people, a minimum, to have a class. So it really. It just really is dependent. So if you're interested, let me know. We've had requests for classes in different locations as well. We would be glad to do that. There again, we need 5 or 6 students. The classes are pretty inexpensive, and so we usually have 6 or 8 classes in a row, so that you've got you could have, if you wanted to, at the end of that, some type of finished product, whether it's actually published or the book is written. We encourage you to have something at the end of that class, and then if you want to go further, we can go further.
Sign me right up. Sign me up all the time. Well, it looks like it's time for us to say goodbye. We're going to say a Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year. And we'll be back after the New Year with more great things. Thanks for joining us for Right on TV, our special edition on Primetime. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you.